Welcome to episode 5, course 1 of Appalachian Dim Sum.
Hey, Randy.
How you doing, Joel?
Doing good.
All right, so just get right into it. Well, I guess first we need to talk about the fact that we're a little late.
Yes.
My
fault.
Well, also my fault. Our schedules have a hard time linking up, and that's the primary reason we wanted to even do this podcast, is because we weren't seeing each other very much.
And we go in spans with my business from sometimes being off for 3 weeks to back weeks of shows, and this was the tail end of one of those. We thought about maybe trying to do this right after I got back from one, but it would have literally just been waking up after driving all night, showing up and being like, I have no notes and don't know what we're talking about. So right. We put it off a week. So I still don't know what I'm talking about. But
and we're still going to have the 4 episodes for the month. We're going to upload one tonight after this. So it'll be Wednesday instead of Monday. And then we'll get right back on the Monday schedule. This may happen from time to time. We're still going to try to do one a week event. We'll get together once a month, but have an episode posted once a week.
When my shows are closer, it's a little easier. These last 2 were Chicago and in Sandusky, Ohio, which is right on the Great Lakes. So it's
quite a drive.
Been a couple of long weeks that were half of which were just driving back and forth. But
did you listen to anything good on the radio or anything like that?
I've kind of tuned out. Usually listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff when I go. You kind of hit levels of exhaustion on some things in the news and stuff. So I actually just went through my CD case on the way back this time. And
nice.
I listened to everything from Viking music to Bob Marley to Static X to... It was probably one of the more relaxing drives. Not that Static X is associated with relaxing drives, but just getting back into my tunes was needed. So,
for about, I'd say 10 years now, I rely heavily on Spotify. It's been years since I pulled out a CD or tape of it any kind.
Yeah.
So with all my Spotify playlists, I'm sure you could probably make different playlists, but I just have one playlist of liked songs. I don't make individual playlists for myself. I just listen to my liked songs. And they have this option where you can say Discover Weekly, where it's like, well, we're looking at what you're listening to. Here's some stuff you might like.
Yeah. And
if I listen to Discover Weekly long enough, for some reason it goes to country. I don't know why. I don't listen to country. The music I listen to is like electronica, that kind of stuff. I also listen to classic rock. Now, there are some classic rock, like I love me some Creedence.
Yeah.
So I think if I'm like listening to things like Creedence Clearwater Revival, maybe even like Led Zeppelin.
Any of the good Southern rock stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that kind of was at the tail end of the transition from country to rock.
Next thing you know, they're playing Hootie and the Blowfish, whatever. What's his name? Darius Rucker.
Yeah, exactly. And I do listen to a lot of like 90s alternative rock, and some of that gets a little...
Well, he became a country artist, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds where he is. Okay.
I don't know what he goes by. I think he just goes by Darius Rucker. But,
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good on him.
That's probably why it's easy to get tracked back into country on Spotify, because if there's an algorithm that works anything like it does on YouTube, then that's completely understandable.
Yeah, you go to the next, and next thing there's a mukbang video, and you're like, well, I don't like mukbang. Why is this even on here? Yeah. So with the Spotify playlist, what I usually do is if I'm on Discover, and it gets to songs I don't like, I just go right back to my liked songs, and I listen to that for a couple of days.
I'm still the mixtape generation. I have CDs of mixed CDs that I burn here too. So that's half of my thing in there, is just all these mixed ones. So kind of when I'll take a trip around the radio dial to see. Actually, there was a really cool alternative station, kind of alternative. Played a lot of stuff that I didn't like, but in Cleveland, that I was able to carry most of the way back from Ohio. So I actually heard couple of songs that were from back in the day that I liked. But
all right. Well, for our appetizers, Joel and I each have 3 appetizers we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I guess the first one is I'll do be pretty brief, just Godzilla versus Biolante, and I'll explain why.
I have questions about that name. Okay. I'm going to talk about Taskmaster. It's a British game show that I've gotten right into.
My wife watches it religiously.
So you're familiar with it, so we can talk about it. Great. Okay.
I don't know if I can watch it, if I can talk much about it. I know of it.
Oh, okay.
Then my next one will be The Accountant 2.
Which I haven't seen. I've seen the first one. I've heard the second one's good.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I'm going to talk about end of Evangelion. I watched that movie that is pretty much caps off the series from the 90s.
There was an anime dealer at Sandusky that I asked about that, and they had some, and we can talk about this more in the thing. I think they said the version they had was like a dub or something, that it wasn't good. Like they didn't like the dub or something.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
And then they said there was another older version that was really hard to get a hold of, like maybe a couple $100 to get the collection. So there's multiple dubs, and there are fans who are very persnickety about which one they listen to. And I was asking about it because we've talked about it the last couple times that we've done our show and stuff. I was just, let me see what they have on that. And she's like, I've got this one, but this one sucks. And then it was like, but you really want to get this one? And it's like, I do have like this collector's thing of it, and it was, I can't remember if it was like $275 or something. Like, I don't want it that bad.
I would say if I would say I don't know if it's the original, the preferred dub for Evangelion is kind of like the whole original Star Wars. Like, you can't really get the original Star Wars anymore. It's the special editions.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that, where they don't really even release the preferred dub anymore. And I don't even know which dub is preferred. I just know people have opinions.
It was getting above my head in that conversation. I was just kind of looking for Evangelion stuff because we've talked about it. I don't know anything about it.
Like, look, this is a casual conversation. I have an issue in general with nerd stuff, because nerds do like nerd cred checks with each other, and because of that, a lot of people think the nerd community is kind of toxic and gatekeepy. But man, I've been nerd checked a lot out of things. It's like, hey, I'm talking about this thing, and they start questioning me about details and what do I know. The latest one was, and we can kind of, this is going to be in the dessert in a couple episodes from now. The latest one was I was talking about this game that has mods that are coming out now, and people are making outfits for the character. And I was like, here are outfits that I would like, and I made like a little list. And one of the characters, there's multiple games that this character is in. It's the Parasite Eve games, and in the third one, in Third Birthday, the main character has a particular outfit. It's like a leather vest and like torn jeans. I'm like, that's a cool look. I like that look. And I said, I want Aya, Bree, this look here. And someone came in and they were like, well, that's not even Aya Bree. That's this other person who was a clone. And I'm like, look, I never played that game. I played the first one. I know of the other two. And they were very much like, well, you can't even have an opinion on this because you haven't played it. I'm like, whatever, man. I just thought it looked cool.
Just let me have my character, please.
Right, exactly. Like, don't just come over here and just start.
What's the terminology they use? Let me be my true self.
Yeah, don't yuck my yum. And then
not sure I've even heard that one.
Oh no, that is one.
Don't yuck my yum. I think I've had that. I may have said that before. I think it was in a different situation.
Different context. And then you're going to talk about?
My last one is Sym-Bionic Titan. And I won't say much else about that because I have a lot to say about it when we get to it. So we'll save some time there.
I know of it. So there's going to be a lot of listening from me.
We're going to get that fixed at some point.
All right.
I'm going to take a weekend and order food and kidnap you and make you watch it.
Sounds good. And last but not least, well, actually, probably least, I'm going to talk about Soldier, the Kurt Russell film from the 90s.
Yeah, I saw that on the list and I had to ask. I was like, is that the Kurt Russell movie? Mm-hmm. And I think I told you, I'm not sure that I remember seeing trailers. I remember seeing it on maybe like cable channels. And I don't know if I've ever watched it, honestly. I can't remember. So I might be listening on that one too. Because unless something sparks a memory there that is buried somewhere in the worn out gray matter, I don't know if I remember enough at least to even talk about that one. So. And
then for the actual appetizer, I brought Bow Rounds.
It's as Appalachian as it gets.
That's right. Bojangles, hash browns. We'll put a little picture right here of it. They're huge. They're like dollar coin sized. I bought a large because I don't get them often, and when I do get them, it's just usually like one little serving, and there's like 4. I was like, well, let me get a large one for me and Joel. If one person ate the amount of bow rounds they gave me, they'd have a heart attack. It's ridiculous.
I was getting ready to say, I've gotten just, for dinner a few times, I've gotten just a large order of bow rounds.
And you're still here, so that's good. That's good.
Still,
oh my goodness.
Still here.
They're like little grease sponges, but they're great.
But they hold hot sauce.
That's right. That's right.
I think it's a good Appalachian, what do you want to say, like it's almost like having your papers in Germany.
Right.
It's like, do you like bow rounds?
Do you like bow rounds?
No, you don't. What is a bow round? Get out.
But in keeping with like the South meets West flavor that we're kind of going with a lot of the food, bow rounds are definitely like a dim sum of the South.
Oh yeah. It's completely like something you'd see as like an Asian street food too.
Yeah.
It just happens to be in a fast food place that sells chicken. And really good biscuits.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back and we'll talk about our appetizers.
I'm looking forward to bow rounds.
Oh yeah. All right. Welcome back from some bow rounds.
There's never a bad time to say that.
We had some hot sauce with them.
Yeah, I didn't bring those down. Every time I go through Buc-ee's, which is, again, Disneyland for people my age, we always try to grab, they've got multiple hot sauces. I had a peach habanero, and the one that you were reading, the ingredients of, we might not buy again, because it had lots of
It's a long ingredient list.
I think that was like hot cheddar or something.
Yeah.
And then we had like a habanero one from like a Wegmans up in Charlottesville where Logan is. And
I had that one. That one was delicious.
you gotta have some kind of hot sauce when you have bow rounds. They're get a little bit of spice probably in them, just the way they prepare them. But it's not. It's that Bojangles spice that they use on their chicken and stuff. But you gotta have some hot sauce.
My palate isn't discerning enough. To me, it just tastes like grease.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really get a lot of. Even though I like spice, I can't really tell the difference between different kinds of spices.
It's pretty mild. It's not like a seasoned potato. You know, you get at some places that have that kind of whatever that is. Probably a mix of chili powder and
pepper and garlic powder, pepper too. I thought it was great. I had put a little wasabi on a couple of them. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's like a little wasabi mustard. My good Midwestern wife that would not touch anything with flavor when we first got together. I've got her putting wasabi mustard on stuff, so
nice.
Winning.
Well, thank her for that. That was great.
Yes.
All right, so let's go ahead and dive right into our other appetizers. So this is pronounced Godzilla versus Biolante.
Biolante.
All right, before you get into it, just what is Biolante?
As far as the name goes, I don't know. As far as the character in the movie, it is a guy who is working on genetic, like engineering.
Oh, it's a dude.
Well, no, it's the creation.
Oh, okay.
That he makes, because his daughter. Early in the movie, there's some terrorists that like blow up a lab that he's working in, and they kill his daughter. So you kind of time skipping that 5 years later, he's out in the country. He has like a lab and a greenhouse, and his thought is that he can take the DNA or genetic remains that he was able to save from his daughter and breed them into roses and
That's
keep her soul alive, I guess, in his garden. And
that went terribly wrong.
Goes terribly wrong because the environmental terrorists again come and try to steal. I'm kind of skipping around on it. The movie itself it's a direct sequel to the Godzilla 1984, the release that we had here. It was 1985 here. That's one thing that always happens with Godzilla movies is they usually release them in November, based just off of the anniversaries of the original movie. So usually you get the Japanese release at the very end of the year. It comes to America at the beginning of the next year. So Japanese know Godzilla 1984 is 84. We kind of know it as 85 because that's when it came out, but same movie. This was the direct sequel to that. I think it happened maybe 4 or 5 years after when they made that one. And it has the government and scientists cleaning up after the fight in 1984 and people collecting cells from Godzilla and people fighting over them and terrorists trying to steal them and clandestine CIA type agencies trying to steal those, and everybody wants that technology, and he has it also, and he's trying to combine it with stuff there at his lab. Somebody tries to break into his lab. The stuff that he's working on with the Godzilla cells mixes with the plants, forms a Godzilla rose bush, basically.
Godzilla rose bush with the daughter's DNA.
Yes, yes. And it grows, it's continuing to evolve because, Godzilla he's the result of radiation, and he can heal and all that stuff, constantly changing. It breaks out of the lab and runs down into the lake, and it grows out of the lake into this giant, it looks like a rose bush with like a little beak. It's kind of cool design, but it can continue.
I'm thinking of Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors.
Very close to that.
Okay.
But has tentacles and stuff, vines, I guess, instead of tentacles. Continues to eventually evolve, and basically it's almost like a Godzilla head kind of comes out of what used to be the rose part of it.
Oh, that's cool.
It's the best design of anything, I think, in the series they've ever done. It's my favorite bad guy, monster, villain, kaiju, whatever the right word is for it. If you go back to when they were doing practical effects too, and watch how they did that, they had this thing that was probably a little taller than we are. There was its base with its head and all these like puppeted tentacles with I always kind of think of tremors, like the little mouths at the end of the tentacles that they puppeted from above, and they had it on a platform, so they were rolling it around like the studio where they're doing all the effects with somebody inside of it and people over top of it doing the arms, and to see them do that is just, it's awesome. It
totally sounds like Audrey 2 as a monster.
Yeah.
Even though Audrey was a monster anyway, but
it's always what I was fascinated with Godzilla stuff as a kid, and still am today, and wish there's somehow another I could have made that leap into that world of making movies with miniatures and things like that and practical effects. That's the pinnacle of that kind of stuff. I mean, it's so creative on small budgets, and it looks good, and it's awesome. I love it. But I bring that up because they just came out with you got the picture up? It's like a Criterion collection of, it's a 4K, whatever the right word is, remaster of it. So they re-released it, kind of sharpened it up and cleaned it.
That's what this is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the cover of it. So hasn't changed. There's no extra footage or anything, I don't think. It's just, they cleaned up the old. I think I've got an old copy of it, and it doesn't look great. The new one does actually look really good. It's kind of nice that they reissued it. And
the ability to go back to like the original film and reprocess it to get a higher resolution image is fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're going to lose because so many of our movies now were filmed digitally.
Yeah.
So that's it. Whatever the digital resolution was, that's it. You can't get any more unless you do upscaling. And maybe it's someday upscaling we get good enough to where it looks okay. But if you've seen True Lies, or what was the other one? The Abyss. James Cameron did a few upscales of some of his late 80s, early 90s blue films.
Yeah.
Doesn't look good.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know. I don't know if True Lies was done digitally. I don't think it was done digitally. I don't know why he doesn't matter.
I haven't seen that recent enough to know.
Yeah. But they did a 4K upscaling and they used the AI technology, and it did not look good.
I know they're kind of going back through a lot of Godzilla properties doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just saw, it should probably go to the desserts, but I didn't think of that until just now. In August, they are re-releasing in theaters a 4K upgrade of Shin Godzilla.
I saw that when I was making this information. I was getting pictures and stuff, yeah.
I think when I bought maybe that movie or something else I bought from the Godzilla store, I went ahead and did the thing that I should not have done, and I signed up for their newsletter and email.
Oh, no.
So I get a weekly, would you like to buy this Godzilla stuff? And I'm like, yes.
Yes, I would.
I really, really would. So I did that, but actually I saw that, I think through that same newsletter I want to say August the 15th or something. But looking forward to that, definitely.
Did you see the teaser trailer for Godzilla versus Kong Supernova?
I did. There's nothing there other than kaiju alert.
Yeah. I'm interested to see, because Supernova makes you think space, right?
I've heard people say that they think it might be a space Godzilla. I would rather it be Gigan because I think that's a much more iconic character.
Well, we had a discussion right after they released, because I never saw the second Godzilla versus Kong. What was it called?
Was that the New Empire?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
New Empire. I never saw that, but right after that, when you and I were talking about it, and now we were joking about like the next one, they should go to the moon, and there should be some kaiju on the moon that's like having eggs, and they have to go to the moon to stop it.
Well, in the universe, that's Planet X.
Okay, well, there you go.
That's where Ghidorah and I think Gigan as well come from there. And that's the aliens that show up, and the only way they designate aliens in old Godzilla movies is they're Japanese guys in like a silver shiny suit and sunglasses.
There you go. Well, you could very, very easily, especially with modern conspiracy theories, be like, well, the moon itself is a spaceship from Planet X, and they're there. They've been there forever and whatever.
Yeah.
But if it does end up being a Godzilla in space, Godzilla and Kong in space, that's going to tickle me.
I'm ready for that experiment to go away.
Yeah.
I know they wanted something to kind of bring King Kong back, but they're just kind of riding Godzilla's popularity and doing it, and then making movies about King Kong and sidelining
Godzilla's the sidekick.
A property that should not be sidelined. Yeah. There's something to watch, I guess, but the first one was okay. The one where they make a Godzilla was enjoyable.
I was going to say, I know we've discussed this in the past, but it's such a departure. The whole Godzilla versus Kong is such a departure from the first Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
That had, wasn't Aaron Taylor Johnson, is that his name?
Yeah. Had
Aaron Taylor Johnson in it. That was a fantastic film. I loved the camera work in that film. Yeah. It made Godzilla feel huge.
Well, and the pacing of that movie too is just like the original movie, where it's not, here's a Godzilla fight for 2 hours. It really was here's kind of a slower reveal of the monsters, and when we do get to the monsters, yeah, it's going to take a minute to get to those fights, but it's going to be worth it. Mm-hmm. It's almost like Attack on Titan. Like we talked about how there's some episodes that kind of drag, but they're worth it if you just ride it out and get to the next time there's like a big Titan fight. It's such a freaking amazing fight that they animate and stuff in there that it's worth the wait. And I've always kind of felt that way. That's how a good Godzilla movie is the same way.
I've seen probably half of season 1 of Attack on Titan. How many seasons are there? There are a few.
3.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
That's enough to where if I decide to go into it, it's not going to be a huge endeavor. Yeah. But I think I would be more interested, because I got to the point to where, I don't know, the guy's name, the main character, male, turned into a Titan. Yeah. I think that was the last episode I saw.
That's very early.
Yeah, yeah, it is. That's what I'm saying. It's very early. And I think I would be more interested if the Titans were less human. Like, the fact that they look like big, weird people doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
If they were more Godzilla type thing, or more kaiju looking, I think I would find that more interesting.
It's definitely the thing you kind of get more into that series, where there are powerful Titans that get passed on. Like they have a trait like an armor, or one that's really fast, or one that's super gigantic. That gets passed on, but everybody else that gets it is just almost like a zombie. But 50, and they're not all 50 feet. There's sometimes it's kind of funny. It's kind of creepy sometimes. They show the irregulars and stuff that are like running after people that they look like some dude from the country, that's just running around naked. Oh. And there'll be like a little short dude with like a giant nose that'll pop out of the woods, like just burning, running past everybody. And they're all different sizes, and some are like so big and so fat they can't even move. And it's pretty interesting.
So I guess, give me spoilers for Attack on Titan. I don't really care. If I watch it, I watch it. If I don't, I don't. Is it kind of like the whole zombie thing where they are related to humans in some way? Because a human turns into a Titan at some point, so
it's a backstory that's better to watch.
Okay.
It's much more of an allegory to how Jews and stuff were treated in the 30s and 40s.
Okay. I did not expect that.
When you get into the whole story of it, it's not a whole spoiler. It's a little bit of a spoiler that it's basically a group of people that have been isolated on an island by the rest of the world because they've been viewed as bad and evil. So there's another world outside of them that's not what they're living in. And it kind of twists into those two worlds kind of coming back together, and it's an amazing series, very well written, but some of it's better to just not completely spoil it.
Well, the reason I was asking is when you were talking about zombies, it made me think that zombies would be different if they weren't like people looking, you know? Like there's a game series called Resistance: Fall of Man from like the PlayStation 3. And it's an alternate World War II history shooter.
Seems like I've seen that.
And the premise is there's this race of creatures called the Chimera who like come up from underground at the start of World War II and start attacking everybody. And one of the things they do is they can change humans into one of them.
Okay.
And they're these like insectoid lizard looking things. They don't look human.
They're lizard people.
Yeah. And in that, it's like you're fighting the enemies, and they don't look human at all. They're humanoid, but they don't look human. So there's a detachment there from like Dying Light, where the enemies you're fighting look human. And so
Morgan in The Walking Dead having to shoot his wife.
Yeah, like if his wife looked like some sort of monstrosity, even though he knows, well, that was my wife. If it didn't look like her, that would be different. So I guess the thematically, if the Titans look like kaiju, that would alter the themes of the show.
Yeah.
So take it as it is.
We got there from Godzilla. So.
Yeah, right, Godzilla.
we can drift off pretty quickly.
Yeah. So there's no way to change gears. Let's just do it. A Taskmaster.
That seems like a logical follow-up to Zombies, Godzilla, Attack on Titan.
Taskmaster.
A British game show. This
is a British game show. It's been out for a few, like 10 years or so now. Maybe 12. It was made by Greg Davies and Alex Horn. Have you heard about the inception of the show, like how it started?
No.
Essentially, Alex Horn was emailing his friends tasks. And he was like, send them back. When you do this task, send me what you do. It was just something that he did amongst friends.
Just a drinking game at home.
And it turned into this thing where they enjoyed it so much. They're like, hey, let's try to make a show out of this. So the hosts are Greg Davies, and he is the Taskmaster. And his goal in the whole thing is just to be there at the show and give points.
Yeah.
And it's pretty arbitrary. Like, it's just what he feels one day. Did you
ever watch
tasks.
the old Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Loved Whose Line.
Before the Americans picked it up and
did okay. Once Drew Carey came in, I was like, it's all right.
I was okay with Drew Carey. I got Wayne Brady. It became a Wayne Brady.
Wait, Wayne Brady became the host?
No, it's just every show, once he became involved in it, it
was
like, we're going to have Wayne Brady sing for half the show, and then we'll do some skits outside of trying to promote him. And that...
At one point,
kind of when I got tired of that show, but it was kind of the same thing with...
At one point, they got Wayne Brady, Colin Mockery, Ryan Stiles, and then a guest. They got their crew.
Greg Proost and just random guys. But what was the old guys, the original guy that was the host?
The British dude?
Yeah.
I don't know his name. Keep talking. I'll look it up.
It's not... When he did that show, it was very much like Taskmaster, where he was just... He kind of came up with the thing of, I'm going to award points, and the points did not matter at all. It was just a thing. And
yeah, the points don't matter. That was actually like the tagline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that show continued on for way too long, and I thought it was pretty funny for a while with Drew Carey, but whatever contract Wayne Brady had with, was that ABC? I think he still has like game shows and stuff.
Dan Patterson, and Mark Levison. That's what
Dan Patterson was the host.
Yeah. I never even actually connected those two, but there's definitely a DNA between Whose Line Is It Anyway and Taskmaster.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
very very reminiscent of each other, I think, and that it was just people having fun and having a good time with not an immense amount of structure, just sort of letting comedians be comedians. But...
And the format of the show is there's 5 contestants. And there's usually, I think, like 3 tasks. There's a beginning task, 3 tasks, and the end task. And like in the beginning, they all bring something for the task at home, and that the collection of the things that they bring. So it'll be like, bring the squishiest thing. And then so they bring something that's squishy. and that the person who wins the episode gets all those things. I really want to know how often they actually take them.
Yeah.
Because sometimes someone will bring something that's so nice or so personal. It's like, you couldn't take that from that person. And sometimes it's junk. And you're like, why would you even want that?
I don't think I've watched it enough to have seen all of that. I catch it usually when we're working on things in different rooms, and I'll come up to do something or I'm done, and Martha will be working on whatever she's working on. She has that playing in the background, and I catch the middle part of it.
Okay, so you catch like bits and pieces. Yeah,
I've never sat down to watch it on purpose.
It's on. Especially this past month, it's been after dinner, sit down and watch Taskmaster. That's what I've been doing. And the reason being is I found out that they released more on YouTube. Okay. So what it was is years ago when it first started, I was going to YouTube, I was going to pirate sites, I was going anywhere I could find to get this stuff. And then they got it on YouTube to where it was for pay. And I was like, okay, and I paid for a few seasons, but I was like, I'm not going to pay for all these seasons. And now I don't know when this happened, but it seems like they're all just available. I don't know if it's for a limited time. My assumption is that they've realized that ad revenue gets them more money than people just paying.
Yeah.
And there are 19 seasons. Season 19 just ended. I'm on 12. No, I'm on 13.
Is it still running?
It's still running.
Okay,
It's still going.
I got you.
This thing is huge. I didn't realize how huge it was. It's about 10 episodes per season, and they call season series. This is a British thing. So it's like series 13.
Yeah.
And
well, if you go back though to when we used to have good television, where you had variety shows and Carol Burnett and Johnny Carson,
they've ran forever.
You know, there's a massive amount of interest in it because people's fascination with celebrities. It gave them that interaction with them, and that was before celebrities came on TV and tried to shame you and fuss at you for everything that you did. You just had people coming on trying to be like, hey, we live a cool life and watch our movie.
And that is very much like the contestants of Taskmaster. Well, I've never seen them like advertise, this is what I'm doing, watch my new movie or my new show or whatever. I haven't seen that, but they're all in the industry.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just literally friends of Alex and Greg. They're just people they know.
A lot of times I don't recognize the people that I see on there, but I figure
they're British celebrities.
They're probably known British television personalities and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, every once in a while you'll get someone that you recognize from either a show or a movie or something like that. But most of the time I'm thinking they're like small time comics, that kind of thing.
I may have already told this story. I can't remember. I had to go in for my 50-year-old colonoscopy. The doctor that was going to do the procedure came into the room, and I started laughing, and they were like, "We haven't given him drugs yet, have we?" He looked identical to Tony Slattery from the old Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Nice.
And I was like, here's a reference that nobody in Roanoke in a colonoscopy clinic or whatever you call that place is even going to get. And they're like, I was like, I know I'm laughing. It's like, I just got to, do you even know the show Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's like, the Drew Carey thing? I was like, no, the old British thing. It's like, I don't think I've ever seen that. It's like, you look exactly like this guy called Tony Slattery that was on there. I was like, just go look it up later. I hope he did. It may be his favorite show by now.
I think one of the, with Taskmaster, one of the things that makes the show is the relationship of all the characters.
Yeah.
If you get a good group of people, like there have been seasons where that's okay. They get along, sure, but they don't really mesh well together. The current season I'm on, season 13, is a really great group of people. Season 12 was fantastic, but on 13 they kind of get at each other a little bit. They pick on each other, and that's turned into some really, really fun.
What was her name? Josie Lawrence, the really tall, dark-haired girl on the old British show. The old Whose Line. She was a regular on there with Tony Slattery and little short British lady Carol something. They were just the way they all interacted together was just, that was why it was a good show. It was just, you knew that they maybe didn't hang out together all the time, but they had some camaraderie, and even if they didn't, they were good at interacting well together.
Well, it's because if you don't have people who, one, are funny and just naturally funny, not just they know jokes, or they
Yeah.
I could see how someone who's good at stand-up might not be good at this.
Yeah.
And also, have that interaction, because I just wrote down a couple of the idea of the tasks. Fill a water barrel with as much water as possible from a second water barrel, which is full of water, in a certain amount of time. Whoever does it the fastest wins. But unbeknownst to the contestants for this one, the water barrel they're putting the water into has a hole, and they don't tell them that. So they're busy getting this water into this barrel, and they notice, why is there so much less? And they realize there's a hole, and they have to contend with the hole. And so it's whoever does the fastest and whoever gets the most water.
I think the one that sticks out in my mind that I have seen recently was like they all had to pick an item or bring an item. I can't remember if it was picking from a selection of items, and then they had to make a self-portrait with that item.
Yeah.
And they had like, I can't remember. It's like a roll of paper towels and like maybe a piece of fruit or something. It was all these like random things that people were trying to paint with them and stuff, and just random things like that. I'm sure that has to come from two guys sitting around like, hey, what can we make somebody do with this? You know,
the amount of tasks they come up with is ridiculous, and they also have. I know of it. I haven't looked into it, but they have like a mobile game that you can get, and they'll like message you tasks, and you have to do it and respond. And there's like a whole little community if you wanted to be a part of that.
What was the Guy Fieri game show where you had to finish a thing in like 60 seconds? It was part of the name.
No idea.
I don't remember.
All I know about Guy Fieri is he revolves around food.
Yeah, this was just one of those primetime game show, network game shows that comes on and lasts for a season or two.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of those things where it was like little tasks, like carry an egg with a spoon back and forth in a time frame or something. And I think it became one of those things too that as that game went on, you had people that would start to send in ideas and things like that. And I'm sure it's the same thing there, that there's a following of people, and they probably at this point have hundreds of ideas sent to them every week that they're probably picking through too. So it's one of those things that you can cultivate that and just keep that going forever.
Have you seen much South Park? I'm going on a tangent here.
Back older stuff I watched all the time, and now in a hotel I'll flip to it and it's either something that's really on and funny, or it's like something that's just so annoying I'm like, I can't sit through it. But
I generally nowadays catch South Park when I hear about an episode.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I want to watch that episode, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I heard about this one episode where they like ripped Family Guy. They were just really critical of Family Guy. And Cartman goes to like the studio where they make Family Guy, and they go to the writer's room, and it's a tank full of manatees. And there are these idea balls, and the manatees go and they get the idea ball, and they push it into the machine, and the balls come together, and you get like 3 things, and that's a Family Guy joke. Yeah, it's pretty funny, and I can imagine with the tasks that they do, the way they make them, I can imagine that being possible. Like, make an algorithm just make up tasks.
Yeah,
I can get that. Yeah. Like, get a squirrel and ketchup and make the best portrait of the squirrel with the ketchup. That kind of stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
The thing that surprised me is how much it spread. This thing is like a virus on the international airwaves.
Okay.
So, did you know there's a U.S. version?
No, I haven't watched a U.S. show in
I will talk about that after
a decade.
I found this on Wikipedia. There have been 11 seasons in Norway, 10 seasons in Sweden, 8 seasons in Denmark, 5 in Finland, 5 in New Zealand, 4 in Portugal, 3 Australian seasons, and Belgium, Croatia, Spain, and US all have had 1 season.
So like Denmark, Finland, Sweden, they could have combined. Norway could have combined their efforts,
and they all have their own hosts. I haven't watched it. Obviously, I don't speak any of those languages, so I don't think Taskmaster would work subtitled. Maybe.
Yeah. Jokes generally don't carry over as well, especially sarcasm and things like that. That kind of the core of the British thing, where they're picking at each other and stuff. That doesn't really translate as well.
Now, it's very much a product of the West. I'm really surprised it hasn't been picked up by Japan. I think Japan would love something like this.
I wouldn't be surprised if Japan doesn't have something like that just probably exists on its own.
The last Japanese game show I came across was, all I know is there were people on a pole and they were answering questions, and there were these two like fabric poles that were swinging around them, and they were wrapping them up like a mummy. And after they got completely wrapped up like about to the top of their head, the sarcophagus closed, and they kind of receded into the background. I have no idea what was going on, but it was amusing to watch.
Oh, do you remember the old? I think it used to be called G3, the old channel that was like just reviewed video games and stuff.
Yeah,
they used to broadcast the old Ninja Warrior from Japan, and I watched that thing like crazy. I love that show. And of course, like everything else, America decided, let's make an American version of it. And it became a reality show, and it became stupid. And it just made it to where I didn't even want to ever go back and watch the old one because they just drove it into the ground. And I think that transition started, they sent some like a reality show. They had some American athletes that they sent to go compete in the Japanese thing. And that was how it kind of got tied in. And then it came back and became but that was the whole point of it. It's like, even the really good athletes in the Japanese show were not like just people who had a YouTube channel and did fitness crap. It was the guy that was like the best guy at it ever was like a fisherman, and he was just a 5'3" like ball of muscles. It was probably one of the strongest people on the planet, and the that was the kind of beauty of the show. They would have like like a news anchor would come and do it, and the news anchor would never even get over the first obstacle because it'd be like jumping these things, and they weren't athletic. They'd take a jump and just like bounce off into the water, and you're like, wow. And that was part of the appeal of the show too, is I guess seeing some kind of famous TV personalities all sort of go head first into muddy water and all that. But
well, they definitely refined it, because whenever you watch a more modern American Ninja Warrior, it's just people at peak performance, just obliterating the tasks.
No, it's just people that have a Instagram fitness thing. They're all just competing, and
it's turned into something different. I can agree with that.
It was, I love the old show. There were guys, that were firemen and stuff like that were always kind of the top competitors, but they could never finish whatever that last thing was called that you actually won the competition with. It's like the gauntlet or something. I don't remember what it was called. That was just, you watch the guys try to do that, and you go out and try to emulate anything they were doing, like where they were basically scaling a distance from like here to the wall by just finger strength or something. You're like, there's no way. And that's where you realize that when you're 220 pounds, the amount of strength that you have doesn't matter as compared to when you're a Japanese guy that's 5'3" and you're 110 pounds. that strength is magnified when you're not holding up as much.
Similar to Who's Line and Taskmaster, I feel the show called Wipeout. Have you ever seen that?
I've tuned into it and maybe sat through 5 minutes of it. It just to me felt like a knockoff of Ninja Warrior, and
goofy. It's almost like a parody of Ninja Warrior.
If I wanted the goofy parody of it, I would go back and watch the thing they used to play on Spike TV. It was like Takashi's Castle, but they dubbed it. It was a game show.
We have to look that up.
It was a game show that was people doing all these like crazy kind of tasks, like more like Wipeout, where they're just falling into the mud and all this stuff.
Oh, I've seen clips of this. Yes,
it had a different name, and it had that guy that was like the captain. And he was always like, "Get it on!"
But it wasn't one. It's not one at a time. It's like a group of people.
It's teams of people, and they'd always have the guy that would come up and he's getting ready to try to run across the balance thing, and he'd say something they'd dub over that was just stupid. He's like, "For my grandma," or something, and then of course they'd bounce off and. Usually have spinning things that would knock you off whatever you're trying to balance on, or people throwing medicine balls at you. And I could watch that, but yeah, Americanized versions of that stuff, just not my thing.
Well, then I don't recommend the Americanized version of Taskmaster. It's one season. I watched one episode. Yeah, it was not good. First and foremost, they took and I don't know all these other nations that have their own Taskmaster. But the U.S. version, they took an hour format show and squeezed it into 30 minutes.
Yeah, now you kind of have time to watch them actually do the things.
Right. So it felt very rushed. if I recall correctly, their whole shtick with in the beginning, everyone's supposed to bring an item, and that's what you win. I think the shtick on there was one person brought an item.
Yeah.
So it was everything was just truncated, and this is unfortunately the U.S. version is the only version where Alex Horn, the creator of the show, came and was one of the hosts. He fulfilled the same sidekick because you got Greg Davies as Taskmaster, Alex Horn as a sidekick. He filled the same sidekick role, but the Taskmaster was Reggie Watts. You know who that is?
I know him. I don't.
Yeah, you know of him.
Yes.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those celebrities where it's like I know of him. I know he's a comedian. I don't know what he's been in. But he was the Taskmaster, and he tried. That's the best thing I can say. Is he tried. The chemistry between him and Alex was forced.
To me, it seems like everything in an American version of that would be forced because it's all going to be probably that tier down level of actor and actress that are trying to promote themselves again, and they're not going to be doing anything out of that camaraderie spirit that is from the old British show. It's just going to be shameless self-promotion, trying to get attention for themselves, trying to be the funniest, tell the most jokes. I can't see that ever working.
The word I can think of to describe the U.S. version of Taskmaster is cynical. Yeah. It was kind of mean-spirited. It seemed like it just did not translate well. It's one of those things where if anybody enjoys Taskmaster, I tell them, hey, if you want just out of pure curiosity to watch the U.S. version, have at it, but be warned, it is not good.
Yeah.
But the UK version, I absolutely love. I'll probably, after we go through all the UK stuff, I'll probably end up watching the New Zealand, Australia, the ones I can understand.
Yeah.
I'll give those a shot. They also have a couple of countries have junior Taskmaster, which is just like kids. I don't know, maybe.
That's definitely running with an idea to take it to that many different levels. But.
Yeah, good on them. It is a successful show, and I think they deserve the success.
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to the next few seasons that I have left, and hey, as long as they keep making them, I'll probably keep watching them.
All right.
Speaking of keep making them, they made another Accountant.
Yes.
I loved the first one. I thought the first one was really cool.
Accountant 2 is the first good movie that I've seen in the theater this year.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm one for, I don't know how many other movies I've seen, 1 for 3 maybe, but very action oriented. I guess maybe the way to describe it cynically, since we're using that term recently, is that it's maybe the fun version of Sound of Freedom. People wouldn't acknowledge that movie Sound of Freedom when it came out because it was exposing too many of the people, I think, that make other movies, among other things. And why, when it comes to an issue, and that's not the entire movie of The Accountant, but it really does deal with child trafficking and human trafficking. Why people think that has a political side, I never understand. There is no side to that. It's wrong. It's awful. And the people that try to tie that to politics are just being dumb. But it's
definitely one of those things that, as someone who lives in just like rural suburban America, I like to pretend it doesn't happen, but it does.
There's a lot of. I think that was some of the response to Sound of Freedom, was that people just didn't want to acknowledge that, because they know by acknowledging it, you have to get into lots of other things, and who have you supported and what have you done. Mm-hmm. Say one more thing on that, then I'll get away from that side of it, because I know that's not everybody's favorite topic, but with the trafficking stuff, like I said, I've spent decades in police work, and I've seen what people will do to kids that they know, and the kids that they see every day, and it's awful. And in trafficking situations, these are kids that they're buying for a very short period of time. So you just imagine how much more removed they are and how much more willing they are to do horrible things to a child that they don't have to ever see again. It just gets into levels of things that we don't want to talk about.
Well, it's one of those things that, like I said, people just kind of want to ignore it. But anything that can keep it on the forefront of culture to say, hey, this is a problem.
What I liked
you have
about
to
this is
recognize
you
this.
actually had a more mainstream Hollywood movie with a mainstream actor actually addressing it, instead of having to go out to Angel Studios like Sound of Freedom did and make it and just be completely shunned and not even
ignored because of who it's coming from.
I think I've told you before, I may have said it here, I was 20 minutes into the Sound of Freedom in the theater, about to rip the frickin' armrest off the chair. I was so mad. And I guess that's maybe the negative thing of a movie like that, is that it does anger you, and it kind of leaves you with this thing of, I want to do something, but what in the world do you do? I mean, drop me with my hickory axe handle down, find me some cartel people, I'll do what I can, as long as the arms will swing. But I mean, realistically, I mean, what can you do against something like that? It takes a military action to address that.
Literally a military action, yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of the things they said in both movies, and it's one of the most striking things, is that all these cartels have switched to this because they can sell you drugs one time for this amount of money, but they can sell you a child 5 times in a night. And
wow.
That's a pretty striking thing to just think about for a minute. And
well, I don't know if there's this would probably be something you'd find out in a commentary or something, but I would like to know if the people who wrote The Accountant 2 felt that it needed more exposure.
Yeah, I hope so, because that to me shows that there's some awareness, and I don't care. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, and I think pretty much all politics are corrupt, and I hate most of them, if not all of them. But just not being able to separate that from politics is a thing I don't understand. That should be a thing that
all
the country
agree.
should be united with.
Well, unfortunately, with a lot of corruption, the issue is the people perpetuating it are the people in power.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah. But back to the movie, away from
Epstein
the part.
didn't kill himself.
I've just talking about that much, I have to just take a breath and calm down, because I can feel myself already just like, ugh. But the movie itself is an excellent movie. Very fun. One of the parts I wanted to point out with it is Daniela Pineda. I think we mentioned her in Cowboy Bebop, the remake. She was the girl that kind of tried to trash all the fans. She was in this, and she was excellent.
Okay.
She kind of plays... Don't want to spoil that. That part of the story is very cool. So we'll leave that spoiler free. Go enjoy that yourself.
Yeah. Please no spoilers. I'm looking forward to seeing this one, but I will wait till it comes to stream.
Her character kind of started with a thing. I was like, are they really just going to do this girl boss thing? And then they didn't. It's her arc in that movie is amazing and kind of well timed with that. Didn't she come out and say something here recently about how she was kind of wrong to sort of cast
She didn't.
Fans
she didn't really go back on what she said, but what she said was in contrast to what she said before, or like how her rhetoric before. She pretty much said you need to respect the fans and respect source material.
I looked her up before this. She's 38. Age usually brings a little wisdom. So
yeah.
But props to her on her role in that. She was very good.
Okay,
J.K. Simmons was back in it. He was in the first one. J.K. Simmons, I haven't really put enough thought into it to delve into that, but if he's not my favorite actor, he's in my top 5. Anything he's in, I love. Whole idea, I don't think this was really a spoiler. It's definitely delved into more in this one, is that Ben Affleck included, there's this group of like super high functioning autistics that have kind of formed almost like I don't know what you want to call it, like not really an X-Men group, but it kind of almost is like an X-Men group with...
That sounds ridiculous, but okay, I'll go with it.
It's really not, though. It's like they're, they still can't hardly... Some of them have to like type to talk, but their problem-solving abilities is like, I need to locate this person. Here's access to... We're going to have to hack into this stuff. Like, you'll have 5 of them that are all like racing each other to hack into something. That's even hack into it first. And they're kind of... But it's at an orphanage or like a... I don't know if it's supposed to be like a treatment place or a home for kind of grown kids that are autistic.
But similarly to how he was kind of like his own agent. He he wasn't working for somebody. He was just an independent agent. this group isn't like under the CIA or anything like that. They're their
Yeah,
own thing.
it's sort of the little under the ground thing somewhere and under the Pentagon, type thing. But they actually have a place like out in the country somewhere, so they're international, I guess. But and he's actually part of that too. Those are the people that kind of direct him everywhere that he goes. I thought that was really cool. It was the fact that they're doing things that are kind of morally questionable, like hacking in, or they need to find something out there, hacking into people's cell phones and accessing their cameras and getting into their email. Like while we're sitting here, and you'll see like a little screen like flash, like little black screen flash up for a second, and that was them accessing everything that you had. And you're like, after we see that movie, every time I see a thing flash up, I'm like, holy crap, they found me. But very fun. It really was. I'm surprised it didn't get a summer release because it had that kind of summer blockbuster kind of vibe.
I don't think movie studios have any idea when to release anything anymore.
Yeah. I don't know how it did. I never looked up the box office. I think it did pretty well because it was there for a while. But Barenthal with Affleck, it seemed like Affleck kind of. I don't remember him in the first movie being quite as. Seemed like he played the character a little bit different this time, trying to sort of emphasize maybe his autistic traits and stuff a little bit more.
I kind of feel like when they made the first one, it wasn't, the whole autism spectrum wasn't as, we weren't aware culturally about it.
Yeah, I think it was kind of definitely more suggested in the first one. This one really was embracing that and trying to highlight the fact that some of the high functioning people are really skilled and really intelligent. They're just sometimes handicapped and unable to communicate, things like that. And but the action in it's really good.
Looks like they made 101 million.
Yeah. Was it? They even come out in April, or was it before that? Was it in March? I forget even when. It's been several weeks since we all went to go see it together, but
25th of April.
Okay, gotcha. Trying to see if there was anything else I wanted to mention on that.
Did they leave it open for a sequel?
Yeah, you could absolutely, even if it becomes sort of like a John Wick ballerina type thing, to where you're
that's what I was thinking. Taken for Liam Neeson, Mission Impossible for Tom Cruise, John Wick for Keanu Reeves. I could totally see Affleck saying, "This is my franchise."
Yeah. You could. There's a lot more you could do with it. The way they use the Daniela, is it Pineda? I think so. You say Pineda.
No idea.
You could almost make a different movie and just incorporate a new character along her lines or something, and just have it kind of be tied to the organization. I think that's a mistake that some of these things do, is they try to have one character that runs through everything, and you get to where you almost get a little bit worn out by the same character doing the same thing through 4 or 5 movies.
Well, and introducing that group that he's a part of definitely opens it up.
Yeah. If you good writing, you could explore that in lots of different ways. And
Matt Damon had what did he have? He had his own.
Oh, he was Bourne.
Yeah, Bourne. Jason Bourne.
Yes.
Yeah, that was his.
Yeah. We're also worth noting we're house sitting a dog that barks every time anything goes thump. So
anything goes thumps. Wants to let us know.
Excuse the barking.
All right. Anything else you want to say?
I think that one covers it.
Yeah.
Get back into most of what I want to say kind of gets back into the whole Sound of Freedom and the issues with the trafficking, and that's just not a good place for me to be.
Yeah. Well,
I don't need to be angry anymore about things that I already.
Anything that picks at the facade that covers all that up. Yeah. Pick away.
Well, there's issues that are. Everybody wants to lump that into immigration. It's like there's different issues there. There's lots of things you could talk about with immigration. That's obviously a negative side of the illegal immigration stuff that is easily addressed by just increasing security and being a little more strict on stuff. But again, it's like any other kind of illegal venture, is that if you don't make that part of it possible, or make it very hard for them to do, then you kind of make that kind of stuff go away. And
even if we crack down on all, let's say there's zero immigration, you still have kids getting kidnapped within the borders, kids getting sold within the borders. I mean, there's still that problem, inside the country.
What happened by bringing it here is it just made that market that much more profitable,
right?
And it got it to where there was such a demand for, and that's just horrifying to think about, that there's a demand here by grown people for children from other countries, whether it's to go work in a meat packing plant or to do something much, much worse. That increased demand means that encourages that kind of crime and stuff to happen in those countries, to where you're taking children from homes, you're grabbing somebody off the street, you're ransoming, people's spouses or their siblings and things like that, and just so much other crime that comes from that. And I'd honestly rather fight the drug war than have to try to fight something like that. It's disgusting.
Well, as an ignorant civilian who really doesn't know any of the ways police have access to things, like, one of my thoughts has been is like, well, don't they know where things are going? They track everything. Yeah. Like, they can't find out what's happening and where it's happening. But I think it might be one of those like they know what you know, so they can avoid the methods that they know you can track them. I don't know.
The thing with enforcement is that it's the same thing I used to always say about when I was patrolling the highway. By the time, if I stop you and you're driving under the influence, and by the time I'm processing you, I'm tied up for 2 hours at least, from the time the traffic stop happens to going back and jumping through all the hoops you have to do to document everything and then get to a magistrate and get the person locked up. The time that I've done that for 2 hours, 45.
How many people?
Other people, probably people passing me while I'm sitting there.
So it's not that nothing's being done. It's just that there's so much.
It's just saturation. And same thing with the border. You throw so much stuff at the border. Yeah, you're going to count on some of it getting caught, but while they're processing that one, there's another one getting by. And one of the funniest, not funny, probably. We got some dudes sleeping under a bridge. I won't say the location, because I've worked in a couple different counties. They had gotten drunk, arrested the guys, and then in the process, just going through the car, inventorying what they had there, it was like one of the guys put his hand on the seat, and it was like, that's weird. What's that? That doesn't feel like a seat. Every cushion in that back part of that car, it seemed like it was like a little mini, like a RAV, like a SUV type thing, had been hollowed out and were bricks of marijuana.
Well, and then
that got seized, and I always thought about, it's like, these guys got a couple days in jail over the weekend, and got involved with the state police. I don't know what they got charged with after, but it's like, those guys were just praying that I don't know if you pray that you stay in prison or that you pray that you can get out on bond and just run for your life, because somewhere there's a guy that had that car full of drugs expecting to get from location A to location B, and it didn't make it, and
someone's got to pay.
I'm sure, I don't know what the street value of that even would have been at the time. But
I wasn't thinking money.
Yeah, it's the money lost by those two guys by being idiots and getting drunk and passing out was if they made it for the rest of that year with their lives, I would be surprised. But that's
It looks like the accountant too cost $80 million to make, so it was profitable.
Yeah.
Not way profitable, but probably between the box office profit and then it'll probably pull some good numbers on streaming.
It hasn't even come out on like streaming and DVD yet.
Yeah, so it'll probably get a sequel.
Yeah.
Any more if anything's profitable at all.
If you just break even.
Yeah, they're like,
gets a sequel.
Yeah. And we don't know the way revenue splits happen with all the streaming services. No idea how that really affects any of it.
That whole system, I do not understand it at all.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed to me like they would have made more money just selling DVDs, but apparently there's more involved with this and advertising, having ads, progressive ads pop up 5 times during your movie instead of...
Have you heard the latest about what Netflix is going to be doing? They're going to be using AI to display ads that are contextually linked with what you're watching. I don't know how that's going to work.
Well, that should cut out the number of Progressive and other insurance. What's the other one? The Liberty Mutual.
Oh yeah, I see a lot of medical, like for drugs and stuff.
Yeah. So
if
it cuts those out, I'm good with that.
I'm thinking you'll be watching The Accountant 2 on Netflix. You know, in the middle of it, you'll have Ben Affleck, you know, drinking a Coke when he didn't in the actual film.
I was hoping it'd be more like buy our ammunition.
Yeah.
Here's a discount on an armored vest. I don't think we'll get those.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm almost at the point of choosing like one of the services to just pay and just get rid of the ads. So they all have ads now.
Yeah.
All right. My next appetizer is going to be end of Evangelion. I watched this. It's the cap to the Evangelion series from like 1997, and it's kind of a remake of the last 2 episodes, because it actually comes up and says like episode 25 and episode 26. So they like remade the last 2 episodes, because if you recall, I was talking about how the last 2 episodes were just very like ethereal. They all happened in like this no space, and it was all conceptual and psychedelic and all that. So that's kind of what happened, is we saw what actually happened like in the real world during that time. And it's about the third impact. And what the third impact does is it brings upon what's called the human instrumentality. And that's where it's like a rapture, and all of mankind become like spirit form and merge into one consciousness.
Well, okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of, because in the Evangelion world, the mythos of the world is that Adam was created by like the old gods, essentially. And Adam was making angels for Earth. And then Lilith came about and made humans. And humans populated the Earth. And that's the and then Adam was reawakened, and then he started making angels again, and that's what we're fighting against. So that's like the premise.
Very, very interesting to see Japanese takes on the Bible and Christianity, where they're not afraid to just be like, yeah, let's just make a story up about this.
Yeah. Japanese influence fiction, Japanese made Christian influence fiction is one of my favorite things. Yeah. Like I love the whole fantasy that they come up with, where it's like medieval knights and stuff, but it's got this different flavor than the stuff that is made in the West.
And even just like tying in things into characters, like, oh my gosh, what's the I'm awful at trying to think of things off the top of my head. The big guy in the red coat with the pistols that had those like a scripture on it.
Trigun? Is that what we're talking about?
No.
Get big guy in the red coat. Sounds like Vash the Stampede.
Oh my goodness.
What's it even from?
It's an old anime where he's Helsing. Helsing is
what it's called. The vampire.
That there's a whole group of people that are called the Iscariots, that are sort of like tied to almost like I don't know if it's supposed to be the Catholic Church or Church of England or something. I don't even know. I don't remember that well enough to where they're hunting the vampires, and he's it's not even like vampires, it's like ghouls in the thing, but there's so much like Christian stuff, symbols and things sort of thrown into that, but it's just like they don't care if it's offensive or if it's blasphemous or whatever. It's just like we're just going to work this into the story because this is what we wanted to do.
Well, there's really, I don't really know how much of there's 2 schools of thought within Christianity when it comes to Christian iconography. One school is anything other than just complete reverence is blasphemy.
Yeah.
That's like where the satanic panic from the 80s and 90s came about.
Yeah.
And then there's the other school of thought is like, well, we can see if you're being disrespectful. We know. Yeah. That's why like if an anime has a depiction of characters that are kind of like in the organization of the Last Supper, that's not really offensive. But then what they did at the Olympics was offensive because they felt like it was a slight. You know, there's...
Well, some of that, I think at the Olympics was intended to offend.
Yeah,
I think.
And that's what I'm saying. Is
I think
like
that's what the Japanese stuff. I don't think they're trying.
Yeah,
to.
I don't think anything that they did in Evangelion or Hellsing or anything. I don't think they're trying to be disparaging.
Yeah.
It's that they are inspired by.
Yeah,
and that there is a difference between it.
Definitely not doing it as provocation.
Yeah, are you making a commentary or are you just?
I want these characters in my story, so that's what I'm going to write. Mm-hmm. And
so, in the episode 20, in the end of Evangelion, I had to actually look this up because I didn't quite get it. The UN started attacking Nerve, and I was like, well, why is the UN attacking Nerve? That doesn't make any sense. Well, apparently the committee that was over Nerve, called the Sealy Committee. Not over Nerve, I'm sorry. The committee that was over the UN, called the Sealy Committee, they wanted the human instrumentality project to occur as well. So both Nerve and the UN want humanity to become this spirit form. It's just who was in charge of it. And I'm like, that's very
for
much...
people that don't know, Nerve is the agency that creates the
Evangelions.
Yeah, I was gonna say the mechs, but
Ava.
Yeah.
So that's what Nerve is. Nerve is the organization that make the Ava and have the pilots and fight against the Angels. They're the front line defense against the Angels. Yeah, the fact that the UN attacked them, I kind of felt like that was just to fill it up, to kind of like give something's got to happen. Yeah. Let's get them attacked. Yeah. So while the attack was going on, Ray awakes Lilith, and she begins a third impact. Asuka seemingly dies, because she's fighting the UN, and the UN have their own like Ava units, like they've made their own mech-looking things, and she fights against them. And it's one of those things where she looks like she's winning, but they reconstituted themselves and tore her apart. And the entire time, Shinji is just crying like a soggy piece of milk toast. Oh my goodness. This kid, I tell you, I wish there was more character development. Like, it would have been great because in the beginning he was a whiny and crying and everything. Okay, you kind of understand. It's all new, it's scary, all that. But by the end of it, he's still in a corner weeping. Come on, dude. It's the stuff you've been through should have made you a little battle hardened. And the reason Asuka dies is because of him. It's his fault because he didn't get in his Ava and help her when he had the chance. So I mean, it was very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. It seems to me like they intentionally, with these last two episodes, it was almost like a character assassination of Shinji. Like any positive you could say about him just kind of got washed away.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that is the fate of humanity lied solely in his hands. And this is I think this might be where the difference between the functionality of the instrumentality project between like what the UN wanted to do and what Nerve wanted to do. Because in Nerve's instrumentality, and with Ray being the one to wake Lilith, Shinji was given the power to decide whether or not to keep humanity as a single consciousness or not.
Okay.
And he decides, and this was shown in the series at the end, where he decides, well, I'm going to choose individualism. I'm going to choose that we all have our own, like, free will, essentially. And that's where the scene of everybody standing around Shinji just clapping, saying congratulations. That is the end of the show. And I don't like the fact that Shinji was in charge of that. I think it's an interesting ending. And at the very ending, it's him and Asuka have reconstituted. Like, those are the only two people so far that have reconstituted. This was a part that I had to look up. Apparently, the idea was everyone gets to choose whether or not to reconstitute themselves.
Okay.
So I'm very interested to see if, like, the end of Evangelion, not the end, the redo, I don't know if that takes place after everyone gets reconstituted, because when he chose to, I guess, reject the human instrumentality, because the third impact happened, but he like negated the result of it, but it still occurred. It's confusing.
Yeah, man. There's little hints of reinserting yourself into the Matrix kind of thing.
Kinda, yeah.
If it was just the two of them, it'd be like re-establishing the garden. But don't know. A lot of there I can't comment on just because I haven't seen all that. I've said it before. I've watched the 3 of the 4 or 2 of the 3 movies. They were kind of the summary ones, and I haven't seen them recently enough to really remember enough of that story to just, other than like there were some cool fights.
Yeah, and that was essentially, that was kind of, before I rewatched the series, that was kind of what I remembered about it, was just kind of surface level.
It's like, I think I told you I had watched, tried to watch The Watchmen a few times, and I would watch a little bit, fall asleep, catch other parts of it, and never get into it. And you said something, it's like, oh, it's like one of my favorites. I'm like, why is that one of your favorites?
Yeah.
And I went back and watched it, and it was like, oh, wow, okay. It's like, this is really good.
Yeah. That end scene, Rorschach's end.
Oh, Rorschach in the jail. That's one
that was
of my
great.
favorite scenes ever. It's like, you're locked in here with me. I was
Yeah,
like,
love it.
So
Love it.
if I was going to get a tattoo of somebody, you weren't such a little small dude, I might get that tattoo.
That was a fantastic film. So at the end, when Shinji and Asuka wake up, to show that Shinji had zero growth at all throughout this whole thing, that he just fumbled his way through it, he gets on top of Asuka and starts choking her. What? Again, I asked, why did he do that? Well, because he didn't know if he was truly dreaming. So it's essentially like, pinch me to see if I'm asleep. I'm like, so you choke her? Come on. I don't know.
A lot going on with that one.
Yeah, I really feel like, and I'm sure people will disagree with me, but Shinji's one of those characters where I don't think he has any redeeming qualities. I really don't. He's just a little punk.
What that makes me think of, this is such a far stretch, but it's just how my brain works, is Alpum from Saving Private Ryan, the little reporter guy that goes with them, and he sits there and just basically watches them all get killed, and then at the end shoots one of them and acts like he had something to do with it. He's one of the only ones that lives. And I don't want to say this in a way that sounds offensive to anybody that survived any kind of war, but it's always been my theory that these guys that come back and claim to be a war hero and turn that into a political career are those guys, not the real guys that were the heroes, and the people that fought didn't make it back because they fought and were killed. And you get these little mousy dudes like that not only don't grow, they that's their existence, is to be like that. And I don't know if that's related to that or not. That's just what popped into my mind while you were talking about him. It just made me, I was just picturing Oppum from that movie.
Well, I mean, statistically speaking, there's got to be people that are like that. I mean, there are people who go into basic and flunk out of basic and then spend the rest of their life talking about how they were in the military. Yeah. It's like, you weren't in the military. You didn't even finish basic.
You watch the whole last sequence of that, and he's sitting there behind the row of guys that are sitting there picking off. They kill Tom Hanks. They shoot Mike, the sergeant, and all that stuff. And he literally could just like pop over the hill and just take them all out, or throw a grenade over there, and he just lays there in a ball and just watches all of his friends get killed. And it's like the guys that come back, and half the time it's a Republican that, I was a great war hero. I was like, no, you were probably that guy. The war hero was the guy that you sat there and probably watched get killed. And that's not the case. I know there are some guys that are amazing that come back from seeing things that are 8 times anything I've ever seen. But that's just exactly what that reminded me of.
Yeah, I could totally see years down the road Shinji talking about how
he saved
humanity, and yeah, I could see that. I guess the last comment I have, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, and I do enjoy. And it's one of the different. We've talked about this different Japanese narrative and Western narrative or Eastern narrative, Western narrative, is we always want the hero, we always want the happy ending.
Yeah.
And they're happy, and they're fine with not having the hero, not having the happy ending. So if Evangelion, and it might just be my Western sensibilities, why I wanted Shinji to become like the hero.
Yeah.
And you could totally see a story in which he did become that, where he went out and he fought the good fight, and he fought for Asuka, but they still overwhelmed him, and then you could totally see how that could happen. But that's not the story for him.
You definitely need to watch Titan all the way through to get to the arc of Eren.
Okay.
As that show progresses, it's very, very interesting. And you talk about Western sensibilities. Of all the great anime out there, I always come back to my neighbor Totoro that we watch with our kids multiple times growing up. And that all the fantastical stuff that happens in that, basically, the mom is in a hospital dying of something they never really say if it's a cancer or something else. But the payoff, happy point of that movie is they get back together, they get to go see her in the hospital, and they spend a day having the afternoon together. If that was a Disney movie, she would have been cured of everything and would have been a magical ending. Everybody would have been perfect. And you come back to that and you think for a second at the end of Totoro's, like, she's still in the hospital, she's probably not going to last much longer. But the whole point of the happy ending to the story was that they got to have the afternoon together. Mm-hmm. And that's a completely different sensibility than what we have on stuff, and that you find the good in bad situations. It doesn't always have to be the Disney ending. And
I feel like it's a little more honest.
Yeah, it is.
A part of the American psyche is the hope, and then the striving, and we could do it. It's the optimism that is a part of our culture. So I could see why there's a difference there.
It's the I don't know, the song, the playing of the record in the middle of the prison in Shawshank Redemption, mm-hmm. where they just have that moment. They get to appreciate something, but they're still in prison. They're going to be there the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. They've killed people. It's
such a good film.
Oh yeah.
Such a good film. The last thing I'm going to say about End of Evangelion is I would really like to, and if I get really bored at some point I might do it myself. But I'd love to see the last 2 episodes of the series and the end of Evangelion mixed together. I think the cerebral nature of the last 2 episodes and the physical nature of the end of Evangelion, I think it would do well if you could splice them together and just make 4 episodes essentially.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I wouldn't recommend just chopping the last 2 episodes off of the series and then watching this, because I think the last 2 episodes have some substance that is valuable.
Be more of like a dream sequence or flashback scene or something in it instead of the whole episode.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy to watch that. I don't know when I'll get to the redo series. Get to it at some point.
Gotcha.
Maybe that's something we could watch together, since you're interested in watching it as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely. The more you talk about it, the more intrigued I am, and the more you see these things that have such, not an immense amount of content, but a lot of content, and it's like, I don't want to start it because I don't have time to do it, and I need more time.
Yeah, we'll have to do it at some point to where we can look ahead and actually schedule it.
Yeah.
So okay. All right, so Sym-Bionic Titan.
Probably more of a smooth transition to talk from what you're talking about to this than I was really thinking, because it is a lot of kind of similarities. But Sym-Bionic Titan, you got the image there.
There you go.
2010, September, I think is when it came out. It's Genndy Tartakovsky, and he is, what all did he do? He did the Clone Wars stuff. That was the transition between the 2 movies. He did Samurai Jack. Did a bunch of Cartoon Network shows. He
got a very unique style.
Yeah, very unique style. It's only 20 episodes. It actually ended September of 2010 when it started, and it ended in April of 2011. So my memory of the existence of this show was skewed. I thought it ran longer than that. Give you a quick rundown. You see him on screen there. focuses on Ilana, Lance, and Octus. Lance is, the guy with the dark hair there. He's the son of basically like a Tony Stark type sort of lead scientist.
Okay.
Who is the guy that creates this Titan technology and disappears. So he becomes orphaned when he's little, goes into like a military school. He's kind of like the rebellious kid, but he's still like he's just super athletic, not scared of anything. He's kind of like their top warrior. Octus is the little, maybe flip to the next one.
Yeah.
On that first picture, he's the guy with the glasses, and this one, he's the clear robot.
I'm assuming the purple guy is the...
That is Lance in his outfit,
okay.
and his armor.
Now, are these mechs that exist apart from them, or do they like summon them?
They probably the biggest stretch of the show is that they wear wristbands, and they can just hit their wristband and they turn into that.
Gotcha.
How that manifests out of a wristband, I don't know. But Octus is like basically sort of like an AI. His whole body is energy. Just his processor is like that little yellow thing in the middle of his head.
Okay. They each have that little yellow thing?
He's a robot that's created by the dad, the sort of Tony Stark type guy. And the whole premise of the show is it's kind of like a royal family on another planet, but it's not like England. Probably historically, it's probably more like a Prussian Empire, maybe Austria-Hungary, that kind of more of a militaristic type empire.
So this takes place on another planet?
Well, that's kind of the background story of it. The main part of the show takes place here on Earth.
Oh, okay.
They are attacked by these Mutrati. They're these like primitive looking aliens.
These things?
No, that's one of the beasts that they come. Mutrati kind of look like really grisly, like aliens from the Alien franchise. A little bit more humanoid than them. But they're like these kind of primitive things that are just out to destroy everything. The whole empire is attacked by them, and you find out that it's really a coup by their general. Their general is like this guy named General Medulla who wants to overthrow the king and just take power for himself. So the king, with the technology that the dad kind of developed, sent Ilana, excuse me. She's the sole heir of the king. That's the Mutrati there on that picture that you...
Mutrati.
She's the sole heir to the royal family. So they're getting overrun by the Mutrati, so he has them flee to a rift gate. The rift gate sends them to, I guess they know that Earth is another planet that's like theirs where they can breathe and exist. So...
That's a good standard. Hey, aliens like our planet because it's habitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good standard conflict.
You don't flee to Mercury because you get out of your ship and burn up. So they flee to Earth, and they hide sort of as a suburban family. And Octus, the guy, I think in the original picture, he looks like a kind of a big guy with glasses. He can change what he looks like. He can just project a hologram. So when he's in high school, he looks like that student. But when they're at home, he looks like this old, like, bald guy. He's the same guy. He just projects different characters when he's in different places. So they kind of try to hide in a suburban area, and then they go to the local high school to act as students. And the whole premise of the show is that Medulla, the general, just keeps sending all of these giant monsters that they capture from across the universe. And some of them are giant. Some of them are like these little assassin aliens. Some of them are like little small things. Like, he's captured the technology. He knows that they went through the gate, and beyond that, he doesn't know where they went. So he's just sending monsters one after the other to look for them. And they don't know even that they can form Titan. That's the thing that's in the programming of Octus until the first time they get attacked. I guess some warning protocol comes up, and then he becomes like that energy expands. Lance kind of becomes the head, and she kind of becomes like the chest armor and stuff. And they form it's almost like Voltron.
Okay, so they Voltron together, the three of them?
The three of them do
Okay.
form this giant thing. I think it was pictured on the very first slide. But that's him in the middle.
Oh, okay. And then it projects some sort of energy field around them?
Yeah, energy field around them, and they can manifest weapons. They can manifest swords, battle axes. He can shoot lasers.
I mean, just going with the Tony Stark idea, the way they had him using nanotechnology to make his Iron Man suits.
Yeah.
You could easily imagine that. Okay, we'll just make something bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
they form
Figure
Titan and
makes
start
that.
fighting monsters like in this like city, probably supposed to be sort of like a Californian city. And of course that brings in the military. Is like, what on earth is going on? There's this great character. I think he's that DiMaggio guy that does the voices. Plays General Steele, and he's like this gung-ho military guy that just wants to, unleash the military and kill everything, including Titan. He thinks Titan's a bad guy. You later find out that there's this guy named Solomon who works for G3 is the name of the sort of secret agency. It's sort of like a CIA that tracks aliens and stuff like that. So they're kind of a different group in it. As the show goes on, the G3 starts to kind of figure out that Titan is a good thing. So they're trying to figure out who they are and trying to get them to learn who they are. The general is going the opposite way. He's trying to find them and destroy them. Rewatching the series just really made me angry.
There's not more?
That I remembered, I had fond memories of it being good,
Mm-hmm.
but it is so much better than I remember.
Oh, really? That's good.
It's
usually goes the other way.
We watch it with our kids and stuff, and half the time when you're watching stuff with your kids, you're explaining things to them, or you're getting them a snack or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
when they're little, so you don't pay full attention to it. There's so much content in this thing. They actually there's an episode where Lance goes and joins a band, and they actually wrote their own music for like the episode, and it's good. It's like better alternative music than you would find on like a radio station now. And there's a couple songs there. I said something to my son about it. He remembered it. He actually had found YouTube videos and downloaded the songs back when he was in middle school and a teenager and stuff that I missed completely. But they build the story around the high school life. It's a lot of sort of teen drama there. But as the show goes on, they start to sort of flash back more to what happened on the planet they came from, which is called Galiluna, and more of the sort of the court intrigue and all the stuff that happened there as they were growing up, and what led to the overthrow from the general. But then back on the planet, Octus, he's just an AI computer because he's posing as a high school student, starts to fall in love with the cheerleader. So there's that aspect of it. Because I already mentioned the Solomon and the G3 stuff. It just keeps building, and you can tell it's building towards. It's one of those things that the writing, like I've said before, everything in the writing happens for a reason. It's the next one little thing builds on the next thing, and it's just really well done.
That's great when they do that.
And it gets to where they won't spoil too much of the show. They defeat a monster, but the Titan can't form anymore, so the Earth is just getting, and that kind of happens as the Earth is getting attacked in multiple cities, like in Paris and at this place probably in California, and I forget where the other one's supposed to be. It might be like Australia. G3 and the military try to fight them, and they get their butts handed to them, and they finally get to where they can reform, and it comes and kind of saves them all. And that kind of leads you up to this step. It's like, well, now this would be the time in the series where they would probably just reveal themselves to the world of who they were, because they almost have to, because they were fighting in multiple big cities. The military understands that Titan's a good thing. G3 already knew they were a good thing, but they found out that they couldn't fight these monsters by themselves either. They've got a lot of pretty highly advanced technology, the G3 agency does, but when the monsters show up, they get their butts handed to them too. So it kind of set up this thing where, like, hopefully they'll reveal to the Earth who they are. The military and the G3 agency will just help them go back and try to retake the planet. And that would have been easily another 10 episodes that could have just wrapped the whole series up. But it got canceled. And it just stops. I think they probably found out before their last episode that it was getting canceled, because you can tell like the last 10 minutes or so of that episode are just like these kind of rushed lines trying to figure out some way to kind of put it together.
Yeah. And
that's what makes me angry. Is it the time slot that it got replaced for was Uncle Grandpa. Watch 5 minutes of Uncle Grandpa, and even
I've never heard that before in my life, but Uncle Grandpa.
It was
the implications of that title.
It was just pure idiocy. It was the same guy that voiced Patrick and SpongeBob.
Mm.
I have no idea what it's about because we refused to watch it. We were all so mad when we found out it was getting canceled.
You boycotted it.
I don't even know if it was boycotting. We just never lowered ourselves to watch something that idiotic. But monster design and stuff, I think you get a picture. Everything. Genndy does such crazy stuff. And there's stuff here. There's probably some things he might have lifted from even stuff like Evangelion. Mm-hmm. But I know Pacific Rim stole directly from this. Go to that one of the robot.
The robot.
That's the military. The military tries to build their own robot to fight Titan. And it's pretty awesome. Like, its chest opens up and it's just cannons everywhere. But the thing that they stole is, do you remember in Pacific Rim, the elbow rocket?
Mm-hmm.
When it wants to punch harder, it fires a thing. They did that in that. And that was years before Pacific Rim came out. And I don't know if the next thing...
It's like a big surfboard.
I don't know if that's copying Avengers or Avengers maybe kind of taking some stuff from them.
I think the helicarrier was something in the comics from like years ago.
Yeah, the helicarrier is actually in the Godzilla comic with Shield and stuff. Yeah, but it is like a moving building and has propellers and stuff. Yeah. This reminded me a lot more of what they did in the Avengers movie, and I don't know who copied.
Talk about like the design of it. Yeah.
But that's basically where G3 is based. They just fly above everybody, so you can never find them. And they, like I said, they've got their whole little army of soldiers, and they've got ships that are way faster than anything that we have. Some laser technology and stuff like that. And
I've always thought with this kind of media, even when I was a kid, I was like, where are they getting all this money? Well, if anything has been revealed in the past few months, we know where these kind of organizations could get their money.
Speaking of money, that's why they canceled this thing. They said it didn't have the
toy marketability.
Every freaking thing in this thing is a toy. There's monsters. Every monster had amazing design. They would have made amazing. You could have made 12-inch figures and a 12-inch Titan and had little small figures of them in their armor. Could have gone bigger scale for people than me like to collect stuff. Mm-hmm. There's little soldiers on each side. Giant robots. Good Lord.
Thinking about the other properties he's been, like Samurai Jack doesn't really have merchandise.
No. I think there was
maybe a maquette.
I think there was something behind the scenes probably with Genndy because he quit Cartoon Network right after this, and then he came back to them with Primal. I know you and I watched a little bit of that. That was like 2019, but whatever it was, I think there was some kind of, I don't know how you find out that kind of stuff, and I don't get into websites trying to look for gossip.
You have to wait for there to be an interview at some point.
But I did find a thing at one point that said that they actually Cartoon Network put feelers out to find a toy company that would produce the toys, and nobody would take the feeler. Like, nobody wanted to produce it, and apparently because they didn't get any response to it, they were like, okay, we'll just cut it off then. And I was like, come on, man.
Well, unfortunately, depending on physical toys being manufactured and sold is kind of a thing of the past.
Yeah. Kids don't play with toys anymore. They just walk around with their phones stuck to their face.
The new toy market is the Fortnite skin or the Call of Duty skin. Those are toys now.
Yeah. But the show itself is just ridiculously good. It's if it had been carried out to the logical end, it would easily be one of my favorites. It still is one of my favorites, and I had to stoop to buying a pirated copy to get it. I see a guy at shows that sells pirated everything. My original thing is like, I'm not buying stuff like that, and I've kind of gotten to the point now where I'm like, I think I might buy stuff like that. Yeah. Force me to have to be on some streaming service, or this isn't carried anywhere because nobody is carrying it because it didn't get completed, I guess.
You run into that, and even didn't we even go to the Internet Archive to see if there's anything, and it was like 1 or 2 episodes they had, and that's it.
I found it one time on YouTube even, and I guess they had to break it into like 5-minute segments. So to watch an episode, you had to watch like 4 videos. Yeah. And I'm sure that got driven off by somebody claiming a copyright to it or something. But
I'm curious because you know how YouTube has the speed function. What if you upload something at 2 times speed, and just have everyone who wants to watch it just watch it at half speed?
Yeah.
I wonder if that would circumvent.
I don't know. I don't understand why people have properties like this that are quality shows that just they get hung up. Like I think I've mentioned it before. The old Fox, the series they launched Fox with was the old werewolf series.
Mm-hmm.
That was basically the Incredible Hulk, but werewolves or a werewolf, where he just went from town to town and turned into a werewolf, and he was chasing the bad guy. Oh, never had a release because of some kind of something with the sound, like the music soundtrack. There was a dispute, and I think all the parties were like, we could go to court and fight this out, but that's going to cost money. So they're like, just screw it. We're just not even going to fight it out. We won't produce it. And you can actually find those on YouTube. And it was building towards a really cool climax. And then I think their last episode was just a big middle finger to Fox. It's like, you canceled us? Fine. Here's a stupid episode. And good luck with that.
Have you ever, are you aware of limited run games?
No.
So they started like in 2015. And the premise is they wanted to make physical copies of like their favorite digital games, and it was just the idea was for preservation.
Yeah.
And there's been all sorts of companies that pop up that do that, where they're just publishing physically what would have been a digital only game.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised we haven't seen some sort of preservation company that's like, well, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to find these beloved series that don't get physical releases, and we're just going to do a small print for people who want it. Yeah. I'm surprised we haven't seen that. That'd be cool.
The more that you get forced into having to get to some streaming service to watch something with 4 insurance commercials and 2 AIDS medicine commercials just to get through a 45-minute episode, I'm starting to kind of become pro-piracy. Honestly, yeah.
There's that meme where you have the person who's on Pirate Bay, and then they see Netflix, and like, this is cool, and they show them putting their pirate hat in a chest, and then it's like 2024, and you have all the different streaming services, and they go pull the pirate hat out of the chest.
What's the little gift that you always see with the from Pirates of the Caribbean? It's like, that's the best pirate ever. And then he's like, it always flips to like some guy like riding a car down to a flood or something. But yeah.
Well, kind of going right off of that, if you're finished with Sym-Bionic Titan.
Oh, yeah.
Soldier. Okay, so the reason I wanted to watch Soldier is I had always heard that it was a pseudo sequel in the same world as Blade Runner. And that's going to be our main course for the next episode. And I had a hard time even finding this thing. So
I think maybe when I had what was the time frame on that movie?
It was like 96 or something like that when it came out, I think.
I was going to say, it seems like it was while I was in college thing. And I did have like Cinemax or HBO or something in my
98.
cable. Okay.
Yeah.
It seems like I remember it being available when we had something like HBO or something. And I maybe caught part of it, and I don't think I've ever actually gone back and watched it. It was at that time frame coming out of college. We were just getting started, and I just missed it completely. But I need to see it because Kurt Russell's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
I had called like all the pawn shops in town, all the places I thought had DVDs to see if they had this thing. I went to a few of them and dug through their piles of DVDs. And first and foremost, not many people have DVDs anymore.
Yeah.
One of the pawn shops I went to had moved locations, and where they were before, they had a huge selection of DVDs. So I went to their new location, none, zero, zip, zilch. And I talked to the guy about it. He was like, man, we were selling for 25 cents a piece, and they still weren't selling. So it's just people weren't buying them. And I remember there was a time I would just see this movie everywhere, it seemed like.
I wish I was there for the 25 cents a piece sale.
Right.
I would have gone there with like $100. And
Well, I think they probably just had 2,000 copies of She's All That. So my option was to you can get a Blu-ray from $15 from Amazon, but I was trying to find something easy, cheap, local, and I knew it was on what's called Fandango at Home, what used to be Vudu, the digital movie platform.
Yeah.
And I had seen it on there, and it was like 12 or $13. I was like, okay, I'll just do that. And I waited a couple days just because I was putting it off, still trying to find a physical copy because I prefer to have a physical copy. and the Fandango version went on sale for like $7. I was like, oh, score. Yeah. It's on sale right now for like $7. So I did that. First and foremost, it's not in any way related to Blade Runner.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's one of those things where like headcanon, it could be related tangentially. It takes place in 2036, and so Blade Runner is what, like 2019 or something like that.
Yeah, the first one is, yes.
Yeah, and it's all about super soldiers. There's really no replicants in it. You can surmise that maybe there are replicant characters, but no, not really. That's more of a headcanon thing. The reason it's even considered, they call it a sidequel. It's like it's related. Is it's written by the same guy, Paul Anderson. No, Paul Anderson is the director, the Resident Evil dude.
Yeah.
The screenwriter, David Peoples, he wrote the original Blade Runner, and I think also, no, he didn't write 2049, but he wrote the original Blade Runner screenplay. So that's kind of why he kind of thematically and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not officially in any way related, and it's a really basic story. It is a 90s action movie. So if you can think of any 90s action movie, it's one of those.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell plays Todd. He's a super soldier chosen at birth, brought up to be a warrior. And then...
Is it a cyber thing, or is it just he's more like a Captain America, I took the juice kind of thing?
No, not even that. Just training.
Oh, okay.
It's just pure training and discipline.
Gotcha.
There's a line in it where someone asked, do you feel anything? He said fear and discipline. That's what he feels. And so yeah, it's just pure training. I guess you could say that because the super serum for Captain America puts him to the peak of human capability. That's the idea. Mm-hmm. So like these guys trained to that peak. Yeah. And the premise is there's a new group that they brought in who are the idea is they weren't chosen at birth, they were created through genetic engineering. So that's where people kind of headcanon the whole replicant thing. They're like, oh, well, this new group of soldiers they're talking about, those are replicants. No, they're not, but whatever. And so since the new soldiers are better than them, the old soldiers are kind of like swept aside.
Yeah.
And they think he's dead because they had a trial to see which soldiers are better. And they think he's dead. He's not dead. But they just put him in the garbage and he gets dumped on a planet of garbage, essentially. And then he finds a group of people that are living on that planet. And the military is just doing a basic security sweep on the collection of planets. And they ask, hey, well, what do you do if we find anybody on these planets? They're like, well, treat them as hostile. Military comes, they're just doing a security sweep of the planet. They find people, they treat them as hostile, and he defends them.
Okay.
That's the setup. That's the premise.
Yeah.
And it's not Shakespeare, but it's fun.
That's any Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger,
and of course
from the same time frame.
And of course, they had like when in the beginning when they were squaring off, Kurt Russell's character is named Todd. When Todd was a great name for a super soldier. Was squaring off against the new super soldier whose name was Kane. They should have done Cain and Abel, but whatever.
Yeah.
So, of course, Kane is a part of the group that comes to Todd's planet. And so there's that, that square off at the end between the two of them. And, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was an hour and a half. It's a quick movie. You get what you get. And that's pretty much all I got to say about Soldier. There you go.
If I've seen it,
yeah,
it did not stick in the memory at all.
Yeah.
All the imagery from it is familiar, but I do not remember the story from it, so I don't think I've actually seen the whole thing. But I'll throw it to the list because maybe that's a topic one day, his favorite actors or actresses or something. He's definitely in my top whatever. I don't know whether to say top 10 because I haven't thought about it that deeply enough. But
every time I try to do a top list, it breaks me. I had one of my mutuals put out this post, and he was like, what's your top 50 video games or whatever? If you could only play 50 video games for the rest of your life, what 50 would they be?
That's not limiting it enough.
Well, and
I don't own 50 video games.
And I thought 50, that's not very many. Yeah. And I started choosing, and I was like, well, let me choose, 10 from this genre, 10 from this genre. And there were games I had to leave out. Like it wasn't limiting enough to where I could pare it down to a real tight 10 or whatever. But it was broad enough to where I could kind of go out on the edges of the games I like, but I still ended up having to choose. So you asked me my top 10 actors, and I'll have 15 that I'm having a hard time swapping between.
That's the difference between a gamer and somebody that's not, is that I could cut it down to 10 video games that would make me happy for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I might actually be at 9 and be like, I don't even know what the 10th one would be. Just give me something that I haven't played.
Well, I mean, it's like with the movies. It's you choose if you can only watch 10 movies for the rest of your life. But I'd make a list of 10, and then I keep going like, well, what about this movie? Well, what about this movie?
Oh, I could get 10 very easily. I would probably miss some. Like there'd be some I'd have to cut, but the 10 that I would be perfect. I grew up in a house with 2 TV channels and a video store that you had to go rent the VCR from. And most of the time, every time we would go do that, I would rent 2 or 3 of the same movies. I can rewatch a movie. Even some of the ones I had to rewatch were not very good, but that was my entertainment. I could rewatch a movie multiple times. If you actually let me pick good ones, I'd be happy as a pig and poop to just have 10 good movies I can watch over and over.
We're definitely of the generation where you had the one tape that you recorded like 3 movies on, and you just rewatch that one tape over and over and over and over and over.
One of those was the first Terminator. Mm-hmm. With Over the Top, the Sylvester Stallone arm wrestling movie.
Yes.
Gosh, I can't remember what the third movie was. It was another. It was Cobra, the other Sylvester Stallone movie where he's like the cop with the sunglasses and he drives like the old hot rod. It was an awful movie, but I'd put that in and watch that thing. I don't know how many times I've watched that. It's like when Terminator ends, I expect the credits to roll right into the opening to
nice
to Over the Top.
Right.
And that's I promise you, outside of maybe anybody involved in either the making of or acting in that movie, I've probably seen Over the Top more than anybody else on the planet. Because I would literally watch it every time that I had nothing else to watch. And it's such a dumb movie, but it was just so good.
Would it be in your top if you had 10 movies?
If they were forced on me or whatever.
You have to choose 10?
You have to pick 10 movies that were never blockbusters or something like that.
Yeah, like if you had conditions that you had to meet.
I'd be sitting there watching Over the Top and Crossroads and stuff that people would be like, what? What are these movies? Rhinestone, another Sylvester Stallone where he's a country music singer. I could watch that movie. I could watch that movie every day for the rest of my life. It is so funny.
Well, Blade Runner 2049 would probably make my top 10. Maybe even Blade Runner, but definitely 2049. Soldier would not.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't... I would say the first Blade Runner would make the top list before 2049 would for me, but we'll get into
We'll definitely get into that during our main course on the next episode. Or in 10 minutes for us.
Yeah. So we got to eat.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back next week for you guys, where we talk about Blade Runner.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Joel.
All right. We'll see you then.
Thanks for joining us.